XM 168 or online at foxnewstalk.com at 6 p.m. Eastern Saturdays. From New York, defending freedom. Until the next time, stay free.
Fascinating, fascinating subject. Now, of course, Dr. Melamede in Colorado Springs, cannabis or medical marijuana has been used medicinally for thousands of years, but it's really just now that we're finding out how and why it works. What are some of the illnesses and conditions that can be treated?
Well, in order to really answer that question accurately, you have to appreciate the nature of the endocannabinoid system and, in general, the way our body works. Everything in our body is a balance of opposing forces. And one of the main regulations that's happening is a balance between inflammation and turning off inflammation. And the endocannabinoid system that we all have is very much involved in turning down inflammation and the damage caused by the free radicals that are associated with inflammation. So it turns out that all age-related illnesses are associated with free radicals and inflammatory responses. So if we're looking at autoimmune diseases, cardiovascular disease, neurological dysfunction, and cancers, they all have commonalities in that they all represent the consequences of essentially being alive, of aging. And that aging process can be essentially slowed down by cannabinoids. I like to use the term that free radicals are the friction of life and the endocannabinoid system is the oil of life. So it helps to minimize things like arthritis and Crohn's disease and diabetes and cardiovascular disease and Alzheimer's disease. The range of potential therapeutic impact from modifying and turning on the endocannabinoid system, which is what the plant is doing, it's simply mimicking it, is astounding.
Doctor, any discussion on this subject would not be complete without talking about the political and social implications of medical marijuana. There are just those people who are never going to accept cannabis as a medicine. Can you tell us what the progress has been made in that regard?
Well, with the discovery of the endocannabinoid system, which is this marijuana that we produce within us, and the fact that it serves as a universal global homeostatic regulator, which means that it keeps things in balance. The science has exploded. Amazing amount of papers, hundreds and hundreds just this year alone. And if you plot how many papers are coming out every year, there's more and more every year. Every major pharmaceutical company in the world is working on cannabinoids, but what they're trying to do is produce synthetics that they can patent. We feel that there's benefits to not using single compounds, but rather using the compounds, the diversity of compounds that are provided by the plant and provided by different strains of the plant to benefit people. So that it's quite clear that in addition to regulating things like appetite that everybody understands, the cannabinoids regulate our pain levels, our hunger, our sleep levels, as well as directly impacting on our immune system and on the ability of cells to survive, which becomes critical when you're trying to kill cancer cells, for example. These compounds are very neuroprotective. When your body has, say, head injury or stroke, your body upregulates your cannabinoid production in an effort to do things. So how is it that our governments have essentially denied these facts? And there's a very interesting explanation for that, because one of the things that our endocannabinoids control is open-mindedness. So it's intrinsic that in a population of people, there are going to be people who are more endowed with cannabinoids and more open-minded, and therefore able to accept changes as they learn new information. And there are people who are not going to have that capacity. They basically can't rewire and learn new things to replace their old beliefs. And unfortunately, it seems that our governments are very much populated by what I call blips, backward-looking people who are cannabinoid deficient with respect to their ability to be open-minded and learn new things. The science is compelling and overwhelming, and it's right there for anybody who wants to read and to look at. And the fact that our governments have such faulty policies that are harming millions, literally millions of people, is ridiculous, and that's what we want to turn around.
Well, Doctor, you just mentioned something, and I also saw this on your website, something called endocannabinoids. Can you tell us what those are, please?
Yeah, these are lipid compounds. You know, we frequently hear about how beneficial it is to take omega-3s and omega-6s, things that are known as the essential fatty acids. Well, those essential fatty acids are the substrates. Those are the building blocks that our bodies use to make endocannabinoids, which then have this marijuana-like activity. So we make them throughout our body. We use them all day long, every day, because they are what sets the tone, basically, between what I call a pro-inflammatory biochemistry and an anti-inflammatory biochemistry. And they really turn off inflammation. And it's inflammation that's the heart of so many of the age-related illnesses as a result of the associated free radicals that are produced by that biochemistry.
Well, Doctor, about 10 years ago, Spain's Universidad Complutense in Madrid released a study which showed that THC can induce cell death in certain brain tumor cells without affecting surrounding healthy cells. Now, if we've been talking about aspirin, this would have been front-page news for 5 years, why has the news about this study been so relatively quiet?
Well, there's such a political agenda here. There's so much fear that's been pounded out by the media, stimulated by literally the government spending billions of dollars of our tax money in an effort to promulgate this lie. What's quite clear is in the studies of Manuel Guzman from Spain, where marijuana, THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, has been used to treat glioma. It's even going into clinical trials, very limited because, you know, the fear of the psychological effects that they might have. It's, you know, the government's policy is die rather than get cured as long as you don't get high. That is ludicrous. Cannabis and cannabinoids and endocannabinoids have now been shown to be involved in numerous cancers, in regulating and killing numerous cancers, including lymphoma, leukemia, skin cancer, melanoma, breast cancer, prostate cancer. I mean, everywhere you look, the cannabinoid system is involved, and very importantly, it's involved in preventing metastasis, the spreading of the cancer. There's a variety of biochemical pathways that promote the ability of a cancer to spread from wherever it starts. And those pathways are all inhibited by the endocannabinoid system. So here we have a medicine all contained in a plant that's capable of relieving pain, act as an antidepressant, directly kill the cancer cells, stimulate the appetite, promote people to relax, promote people to be happy. Isn't this exactly what cancer patients need?
One of the biggest problems facing the legalization of industrial hemp is its confusion with marijuana. Which is, you know, really a distant cousin.
This is a feral-tested industrial hemp seed.
You know, from what little planting I've done, I think that should germinate.
Do you realize you're under arrest? Yes, sir.
The petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, fascist, elite son of a bitch utilize the lawmaking powers of Congress to get through legislation which has criminalized the farmer who's gone into competition with these synthetic manufacturers.
The DEA's intrusion into the realm of agriculture is preventing American farmers from growing a crop that has the potential to help address the global depletion of forest resources, the dependency on foreign oil, the harmful effects of petrochemicals, the excessive use of pesticides for fiber crops, and the economic depression of farming communities.
Why is it that everything that is good for our bodies, our communities, and our planet called an alternative? An alternative to what?
Hemp is the #1 fiber, the #1 fuel, the #1 food, and #1 medicine.
We have to change our languaging and not allow them to call hemp the alternative. Hemp is the solution.
Maybe brave.